When I was in college studying naturopathy, clinical nutrition, and Western herbal medicine, I had a lot of information that I needed to absorb in 4 years. I made it really easy on myself by pinning everything to thyroid disease. Didn't know I had lipedema at this point in time. So because I had thyroid disease, I pinned everything to that, which did make it easier to learn everything that I needed to learn because I had a context to put it in. But to learn all the minerals, the micronutrients, the coenzymes, the cofactors, all of those kinds of things, I gave them all kind of like a really short title so that I could remember them and what they generally did in our body. Magnesium had two kind of titles. It was nature's chill pill in my head, and it was for stress and sugar. So even though magnesium does millions of things, the main priorities for why people would need them: stress and sugar. So let's dive into why magnesium is super important in lipedema, what it does for us, and what will happen if we have a deficiency of it. Let's look at, first of all, what it is and what it does for everybody and why it's a crisis. Magnesium, as I've already said, I call nature's chill pill. But what it actually does in our body is it helps to facilitate over 300 enzyme reactions in our body. That's a lot of reactions. That's a lot of pathways and loops and negative feedbacks and all that kind of thing that it needs to contribute to. The problem is more than 68% of the population is now deficient in magnesium. My theory, the stress and sugar that I call it, we're all under so much stress. We all eat sugar to cope with that stress, and our foods are generally deficient in magnesium these days. So you combine all that, and we've got this crisis of magnesium deficiency in our population that we're struggling to come back from. For reference, for later on, we need about 310 to 320 milligrams of magnesium a day to be considered within the range of what is not deficient and to facilitate all the reactions in our body. One of the main things that magnesium facilitates is ATP. That is our energy stores. That's our energy spark, what helps us to get up and go or sit down and don't. So we kind of need that little ATP to be firing on all cylinders. What magnesium does for ATP is it stabilizes it. And it's also responsible for driving the enzyme to release the energy. So without magnesium, ATP cannot release the energy that it has made into our body where we kind of need it. So a deficiency in magnesium leads to fatigue, for one thing. So we tend to blame fatigue on low iron, low vitamin B12, thyroid function, that kind of thing, when it could be a magnesium deficiency that's not facilitating the process of the energy that the ATP molecule has made out into our body. Magnesium also has a big role in muscle and nerve function. Calcium causes the muscle contraction, but magnesium causes the muscle relaxation, which is why often we can get cramps because we're contracted, but we can't relax, which is a very common magnesium deficiency. Just on cramps there for a second, because I got to throw it in. Magnesium is the second most needed nutrient in the body, mineral, behind potassium. Potassium often can be the cause of cramps as well. So if you're not having any joy taking magnesium for cramps, try potassium, see how you go. That was just a little side note. Okay, moving on. Magnesium is also important with the heart and for blood pressure. It is a natural calcium channel blocker, which helps to reduce stiffness in our arteries and veins, and in turn lowering blood pressure. It also helps to maintain a healthy heart rhythm, preventing arrhythmias and atrial fibrillation and that kind of thing. In thyroid disease, because I learned about this very, very thoroughly, magnesium is the valve that lets insulin into the blood. When you have thyroid issues, insulin resistance is quite common. So magnesium, we kind of really need as much of that as we can get to be able to facilitate an already skewed insulin production. Let's look at what magnesium does from a lipedema perspective, because that's why we're here, right? So the fundamental goal of lipedema nutrition is to lower inflammation, right? It's the anti-inflammatory diets, it's the keto, the carnivore, all of that kind of thing. Because if we reduce our inflammation, we can reduce our pain levels. And that's probably priority for many people watching right now. Magnesium has been shown to reduce inflammatory markers throughout the body. It lowers C-reactive protein. It offers pain relief neurologically as well as physically. And it is an NMDA receptor antagonist. What is that? It prevents calcium buildup, which often contributes to more pain. Magnesium also relieves myofascial tension. So have we all seen those fascia blasters out there that are for the fascia in the body? Magnesium releases that or lessens the tension internally rather than just externally with those gadgets. And finally, because magnesium is one of the electrolytes that we need in our body, when we follow an anti-inflammatory diet like keto, carnivore, that kind of thing, we drop fluid, we drop water, and with it electrolytes. So that's how we get the cramping at night and that kind of thing if we're not keeping up on electrolytes. If you follow that kind of lifestyle and you're not already taking magnesium, you need to be at least taking an electrolyte mix every day. There are loads out there. I use one called Sodi. You can find the link for 15% off down in the description box. It is an Australian salt. Obviously, I'm from Australia, so I have an affinity with this particular brand. But any electrolyte that offers a pure combination of sodium, magnesium, and potassium will be your friend when it comes to the things that you're losing by following this kind of a lifestyle. You don't want to stop being keto or carnivore because you're getting cramps. So you have to mitigate that in the best way that you possibly can. It's risk versus benefit, okay? So we need to take the extra supplements because we need to stay on that kind of an anti-inflammatory diet that is better for us. But we also need to not be experiencing further pain than we already are by having cramps all the time. And I know for me, if I miss my electrolytes even one day, or I have gone ultra hardcore on my carnivore, which I have done in the last week or two leading up to my surgery, then I need 2 electrolytes a day to counteract what I'm dropping in the fluid by following such a strict diet. Now, this next reason why we need magnesium is both lipedema and everybody on the planet. And if we go back to what I said in the beginning, how I remembered what it did, stress and sugar. So stress, mental health, mental anxiety, all the things that come along with how we feel in a negative way can be lessened by adding magnesium into the diet. I had a client many years ago who brought her young child to me, would have been 6 or 7 maybe, crying all the time. She couldn't work out why he was constantly in tears. And when I looked through the diet, although it was healthy, it was still sort of processed foods in so much as, you know, the snacks that is acceptable for them to take to school now, they all have hidden things in them. I said to her, let's give him some magnesium. He was also in grade 1 from memory. This was many years ago. So the stress of that and the sugar that he was getting in these pre-made snacks that he wasn't getting when mum was more in control and he was at home before he went to school kind of combined. So as soon as we started giving him magnesium powder every day, the crying stopped. So if you're crying at the drop of a hat, thinking it's just the pain, it's just all the things that are going on, which is understandable, it could also be a magnesium deficiency because it helps to stabilize our mood. It does that by increasing GABA in our body, which is a calming molecule that we need to stay calm in the chaos. When we're under stress, Doesn't matter what the stress is, moving countries, illness of a loved one, worrying about your kids, worrying about your grown-up kids, exams. It doesn't matter what age you are. We're always going through times of extreme stress. When we're under this stress, our body is pumping out cortisol and adrenaline to cope with the stress, because that's what it's there for. When that happens, the kidneys dump magnesium. So anytime we're under stress, our magnesium is getting flushed away right when we need it. Then, as a feedback from that, as a bad cycle, the magnesium being flushed out causes us to be anxious or depressed or any of those things. And then we find ourselves in this loop. And I often talk about loops from all perspective in all of these videos here and on Thyroid School, because our body is one big loop. One little tweak in the wrong direction, or a deficiency or an excess in something, interrupts every loop, every reaction in our body. So while it's almost impossible with the way we run our lives these days to have all of those loops working perfectly, we can certainly do our best to mitigate a lot of them by having the right amount of nutrients that we need. And I used to be that person when I studied naturopathy that, no, we should be able to get everything we need from our food. And I don't want to push drugs on or supplements on people unnecessarily and all that sort of thing. I'm much older and wiser now since then, and I understand that our food is depleted, our soils are depleted, and along with that depletion, we are so busy, we are so stressed, and we are eating convenience foods because convenience kills us. Those two things combined is just put this in this huge crisis of deficiencies of things like magnesium. Now, every now and again, I talk about brain neuroplasticity, and it's our ability to let neural pathways that we're not using anymore drop away, and our brain then makes new neural pathways to support new habits and thought patterns and beliefs. So that's like we've got one habit going, so we've got a neural pathway that supports that habit because we've done it every day for the last 10 years. We don't want to do that habit anymore. For us to let go of that habit and start a new habit, we need neuroplasticity. For that plasticity to happen, we need magnesium. In the brain, a magnesium deficiency presents with brain fog, memory loss, depression, anxiety, so many things that so many people are struggling with today, not just lipedema people, but everybody. Let's move to sleep. There are kinds of magnesiums that you would take for relaxation. There are types that are really beneficial to take before bed to help you sleep, and there are other varieties that are beneficial to take at other times of the day for other purposes. One of the things that magnesium does to help us with our sleep is it regulates our melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. Often our melatonin doesn't kick in, which then causes insomnia and really bad sleep habits. On the melatonin thing, if you are really struggling, then the first thing you need to be doing is resetting your circadian rhythm, which means looking at the sunshine first thing in the morning, so your eyes and the rods at the back of your eyes understands that it's daylight, and not sitting on your phone or on a blue screen late into the night, because that also triggers your brain to go, oh no, it's still daylight. That's why we avoid that kind of thing and end up taking supplemental melatonin to help us switch into, oh, it's sleep time now, when we could be doing that naturally, and take the magnesium. How do you test what magnesium stores you have in your body? There are hair mineral testing, there are blood tests. However, blood tests only tests what's in your blood. It does not test the stores that we have in our cells, in our bones, and our muscles. Only 1% of the magnesium in our body is actually circulating in the blood. And that's the problem with a lot of blood tests for a lot of diseases. It only tests what's in the blood, not what happens once it gets in the cells. This is like a bugbear of mine in thyroid disease. If you've got it, this is why you have a blood test that tells you you're all fine and good and you're in range, but you know you feel rubbish. And that's because it's only testing what's in your blood, not what's arrived in your cells that make you feel better. And it's the same with magnesium. Hair mineral analysis test is better, and it's probably advantageous to do that at some point in time. I wouldn't live by them, but it can tell you all the minerals that you're storing in your body, but can also tell you all your heavy metals and things like that, which every now and again is a really good check-in to see what's going on in your body, and probably way more accurate than a blood test will be. Like anything, I believe, listen to your body. You should know by now, if you've watched me for a while, I am a firm believer in what is your body telling you. For you to know what your body's telling you around magnesium, you need to understand what deficiency in magnesium looks like. Now, deficiency in anything can also look like an excess in that thing. What does that mean? That means if I'm deficient in magnesium and I've got an excess in magnesium, the symptoms look remarkably similar, which is why it's always best to work with somebody with this sort of thing. Magnesium is not something you would worry about having too much of an excess in, but for other minerals, iron, for example, iron deficiency and iron excess, fatigue. But iron excess will rust away at things inside your body. If you imagine iron and rusting when it's oxidating, right? So there are some things that you would have to be really concerned about as to whether or not you've got a deficiency or an excess. So that's really important to understand. This is also why I'm a proponent of keeping diaries and things like that, because you can't rely on your memory to remember back how you were feeling, what kind of weird symptoms you had on a particular day, that kind of thing. Don't do that to yourself. You don't need to. Just write it down. Make it an effort every day to anything weird that pops up that you notice, a note in your phone. That's where I keep mine. It's in notes. Or I also have a chronometer app where I keep most of the food that I eat and the exercise I do and how I'm feeling, that kind of thing. Definitely keep that. But let's look at what a deficiency in magnesium would look like. First of all, it will look like fatigue, muscle cramps, high blood pressure. And then it's not so much that these are symptoms, but things that cause low magnesium. So as I said, stress. If you've got a stressful lifestyle, a stressful job, a stressful relationship, or whatever's going on for you, you've moved countries, you can guarantee you're low in magnesium. You don't need to look at any other symptoms like muscle cramps and things like that. You can just assume you need a bit of extra magnesium at this point in time. Sugar. If you are a sugar addict, and don't be hard on yourself if you are, because we look for comfort. When you've got a disease that nobody knows anything about and there's no way out of it and you don't know what to do about it, of course you're going to comfort yourself. And sugar's kind of legal, right? It's better to comfort yourself with sugar than it is with any other kind of drug or thing that we might use to make ourselves feel better. So don't be hard on yourself. But if you are a sugar addict, and that's not hard to be, you're going to need magnesium to counteract it. That also means high carbohydrate. So sugars, a lot of people don't understand that carbohydrates are sugar. That's what they become instantly in the body. And they retain water. Carbohydrate. It's a carbon molecule that hydrates the body. So for every gram of carbohydrate you eat, I think you retain 4 grams of water, something like that. We don't want to retain any more fluid than we already do. So that's why it's a really big mission, goal, whatever you want to call it, to cut the carbs. It is not easy because that's most people's comfort food. A sandwich, a piece of cake, a cookie, pasta and garlic bread. Let's double up on all those carbs. They're all comfort eating foods and make us feel better about our life and the crap that we're going through. Unfortunately, it also contributes to the progression of lipedema. So the other things that contribute to low magnesium is low stomach acid. Many thyroid women have low stomach acid, and we need that to absorb our minerals. So that includes magnesium. So if we've got low stomach acid, we're not going to absorb the magnesium that we are taking. So that means we're going to need more to absorb less. Does that make sense? Certain medications means you need more magnesium, and they are statins, antibiotics, and any diuretics that you are taking. You will automatically be flushing out what little magnesium you probably have, And so you will need more on top of that. Now, here's an interesting connection. If you are low in vitamin D, and vitamin D is actually not the correct name for it, although that is what the name is, don't get me wrong. It's actually a hormone. It should be hormone D. It's not a vitamin, it's a hormone, it's a prohormone. We actually need magnesium to activate vitamin D. So we can take all the vitamin D in the world supplementally. I take a spray. If we are not taking or eating or consuming any kind of magnesium-rich foods or supplements, then we're not actually activating the vitamin D into the form we need it to be. And then once vitamin D is activated, it helps us to absorb magnesium. Another loop. There's so many of them in our body. It's insane. So the bottom line with the vitamin D thing, if you're taking vitamin D and your tests aren't raising, your blood tests aren't showing an elevation in your vitamin D, or you've just got all the vitamin D sad kind of symptoms, there's a video coming on that, then you probably need magnesium as much as you need vitamin D. Let's look at all the different forms of magnesium, and there's, I think, about 7. So it's really hard to figure out what you want. And every naturopath, I've noticed this, naturopath, chiropractor, doctor, they all have their favorite forms, and they all say, oh no, this one's the best one for you. Don't take any other one but this one. And that just makes it really confusing, right? But all the different magnesiums actually have a different use. So it depends on who you, like, say you see a chiropractor, they're probably promoting the one that's useful for musculoskeletal issues. Fair enough. That makes sense. So of all the different types of magnesium, you have to make sure you're hitting the ones that have got the most issues that you need to work on. There are better and worse ones as well. So let's look at the ones that, not so amazing. And probably the worst one is magnesium oxide. And that's only because its absorption rate is really low, like 4%. So kind of waste of money, and it's in a lot of cheaper supplements, and that's kind of why you pay the extra money. Everyone always asks, why are practitioner supplements so expensive and it's a scam and all that sort of thing. It's not. It's actually the cost of ingredients that go into it, and it's also paying the naturopath or clinical nutritionist to weed out all the crap, and then you get the best quality with the money that you are spending. So just keep that in mind. Any of the magnesiums that you buy off the counter, not all of them, but some of them, the cheaper ones that you think, oh, I'll just get that one because it's in my budget and it's better than nothing. I'm going to say it's not better than nothing, because if you're only absorbing 4%, odds are you have got a digestive system that is compromised already, then you're going to get next to nothing from it. It's really not worth it. You're better off spending money on more magnesium-rich foods than you are with a supplement with magnesium oxide in it. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is magnesium sulfate, and that's actually more commonly known as Epsom salts. Now, this one you would not consume orally, so this is not like a bad form of magnesium. It's just a different way of getting it into your body, and that is through soaking in it. So you can soak in a magnesium salt bath for 20 minutes. If you're not in that bath for 20 minutes, forget about it. You need that amount of time to get the dose of magnesium that you need out of that magnesium. You can also, if you can't get in and out of a bathtub, and I'm here to say that before I lost weight, before I had weight loss surgery, getting in and out of the bath was like a mission. And there were times that I was like, oh, am I going to have to call my husband to drag me out of here, because it was just so difficult. Lipedema, thank you very much. If you can't do that, I hear you. Foot bath, same again, a minimum of 20 minutes with your feet in a foot bath with a good chunk. So at least a cup to 2 cups. In a bath, you need 2 cups of magnesium salts. A little sprinkle is not going to do the job. This is medical kind of intervention you're looking at here, not just a nice little relaxation. It smells pretty or whatever you're doing with it. If you're doing this to help your lipedema, to help your body regain its magnesium stores, 20 minutes, 1 to 2 cups. So 1 cup in a foot bath is probably enough. 2 cups in a big bath would be better. One of the most absorbable forms of magnesium is glycinate. It's also called biglycinate, so it could be either, and it will absorb up to 80% of it into your body, which is a much better option, particularly once you've got a compromised body. So, maybe you're not getting all 80%, but you're certainly still getting a good chunk of it. It's also really gentle on the stomach, which we kind of need because some people can have issues with magnesium and find it has a laxative effect on them. So certainly when it comes to taking magnesium in powder form, I highly recommend in powder form because you can absorb it that much better. Start with a little bit to see your tolerance load before you run to the toilet. It doesn't happen to everybody. I don't have an issue taking magnesium in powder form in any amounts. Doesn't send me to the toilet. Mind you, I've never pushed it past the amounts that has been required, but I don't have that issue. But obviously some people do. So you may want to start out with smaller amounts to see if that is an issue for you with magnesium. So magnesium citrate's another one that's highly bioavailable. It is generally used for migraines and constipation. So it has the higher laxative effect that we just spoke about. So be careful of that one. If somebody said, I'll go get some magnesium citrate for your migraines, be very aware it has a high laxative effect. So a little bit at a time, okay? Magnesium L-threonate, yes, I'm sure that's how I say it. It has the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. If you've seen some of my other videos, we talk about brain fog and the fact that inflammation crosses the blood-brain barrier, which gives us kind of systemic brain fog. So this kind of magnesium is all about the brain. Cognitive function, memory, mental health, stability, that kind of thing is what you're looking for this type of magnesium. Another form is magnesium malate. Now, this may have been suggested to you or you may have read about it for pain. So it's specific to pain relief, and often people with fibromyalgia, lipedema, any kind of chronic pain syndrome may find relief with magnesium malate. Magnesium malate is quite easily absorbed. It does not have the laxative effect of some of the others, and it has been shown to reduce pain in a lot of issues. So it may be worth giving a shot for lipedema. We also have magnesium taurate. Now, this one is specific to the heart. So heart health, blood pressure, and also blood sugar regulation. So diabetes and any cardiovascular issues, then magnesium taurate would be the one for you. It is easily absorbed and doesn't have as many laxative issues with this one. I know there are supplements out there that combine all of them. That may be an issue if you're one of those people that it causes a laxative effect for. So you're better off focusing on the type that you specifically need and testing that one for the laxative effect first and then going down that road. That's just my way of looking at it. But I think for lipedema people, I would be really closely looking at the malate, magnesium malate for the pain. Okay, let's look at the easiest way to get magnesium in, although having said that, we have already discussed that our soils are depleted of all minerals now. So unless you live on a biodynamic farm, or you can get biodynamically farmed produce from your farmers markets or whatever, then they're likely to have higher general mineral and vitamin amounts in them than other store-bought, commercially grown fruits and vegetables, for example. If you can do that, if you can grow your own, amazing. But don't get hung up on it. Still just try and get the most you can for what you have available to you. Otherwise, it becomes another stressor. And we already know that stress is a major driver of problems in our body. Finding the food that's within your budget and that you can get easily and is not such a big effort to source, that's your first port of call. Not whether it's made grown organically or biodynamically or anything like that. Do what you can with what you've got. Simple as that. Magnesium is the heart of chlorophyll. I don't know if you know, it's one of the few things I remember from high school. Chlorophyll is the green in our plants. It is the process of converting light into form, which is kind of nice. We need chlorophyll. So anything green straight up is your friend and likely has a lot of magnesium in it. So particularly the dark leafy greens, we all throw away those outer edges of lettuces and kales and all that sort of thing because they don't look as pretty. They're a little bit manky. Do not throw them away. Wash them, cut out time, go to the trouble of actually utilizing that because they'll have the highest amounts of nutrients across the board, not just magnesium, but all of the other ones that they contain. So do your best to use those outer manky leaves. The other good sources of magnesium include pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds, if you can do nuts and seeds, not everybody can, then that is probably your highest source of magnesium there. But also avocado is a good source of magnesium, and almonds and cashews. But again, nuts and seeds are tricky. And the interview that I did with Dr. Leslyn Keith, she says in one of her books that nuts and seeds is one of the things that she would recommend lipedema people don't touch. And I have to admit, I don't have a lot of nuts and seeds. It's pretty unusual now. I used to have more back in Australia than I do here. So you choose. It's up to you to kind of figure out what your body likes and what your body doesn't like. Almonds, cashews, but more specifically, pumpkin seeds for magnesium. And the final really big magnesium type food, I'm going to say with a caveat, and it is dark chocolate. So before you run out and get yourself loads of dark chocolate, here's the thing. We crave magnesium at period time. So women, we always crave chocolate, right? So that's because our ancient brain knows that cocoa beans are really high in magnesium. These days, our cocoa beans come in the form of dairy milk chocolate. Yum. But our ancient brain still says, oh, no, that's what we need. I'm needing magnesium because before our period, we need that magnesium to calm our cramping and to calm our body and to have a smooth flow, right? So it's kind of like this, what's that? Chinese whispers. Like over time, over centuries, we still know that cocoa bean is a really high source of magnesium, but now it comes in the form of a processed chocolate bar that we take, and it doesn't really help. All that does is make us crave more sugar. If we can get the original source, so now you can get cacao nibs. It just brought to mind, I don't know if anybody watches Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the episode where Terry got hooked on cacao nibs because they were healthy. It was a prime example of, too much of one thing is as bad as not enough. You can get pure forms of cacao. That is what you need to be having if you want high sources of magnesium. So you can get raw cacao powder. This would be the way to do it. And I have got, I have got a recipe from Thyroid School, and it's called the Magnesium Chocolate Shake. And if you want that recipe, comment down below and I will go over and grab it and put it in down below for you, or I'll send it to you or whatever you want. But I won't do it unless somebody asks for it because I have to go looking for it. Raw cacao powder in a smoothie of some kind. Make sure it's not high in fructose, low in sugars. That would be your best way to get a big hit of magnesium in a natural form. Raw cacao is not cheap. However, it's cheaper than supplementing, and it's the pure form. So that may be a better option for you than supplementing. So what now? Do we now know that we need more magnesium? I sure do. After doing this video, I'm like, damn, I need more magnesium. And I don't even know if I can get raw cacao over here. I know I can order from iHerb, have it probably delivered here. I haven't done that yet. All these new things. It's really evident to me that magnesium has to be an ongoing thing, and I'm going to try and source the magnesium malate. Hit me up if you don't know how to get malate, and I will try and source that as well after this video. Everybody in the world is deficient in magnesium. We deal with pain on a daily basis and inflammation, so we probably need it more than most. So we need to get ourselves some magnesium for a happy and healthy lipedema life.